everyone. I wanted to start with something completely non-related. I brought hardware. This is event, so I have to bring some hardware. So does anybody know what this is?
Tower of Hanoi.
Yeah, exactly, the Towers of Hanoi. So this is really like a completely unrelated story, but I figured it might be nice. When I was a little boy, my dad made this. One of the pieces is missing. You can see that this is like slightly rounded, like the people in the front can see it looks a little bit different. And my dad made this, and we played with it. Does anybody know how to solve it? Can anybody explain it very briefly? Yeah, so it's not so easy to explain, but it's very easy to do. I learned this. I did not know the rules. I mean, I know what the rules are. You cannot put a bigger piece on top of a smaller piece, and you can only move one piece at a time. So I was a little boy, my dad made this, and what he also did is he took me to an open day of the University of Twente, because we lived around here. My parents still do. And there was this table, and there was a student, and they had the Towers of Hanoi. But as you can see, this is like in a triangle. And on the table was the Towers of Hanoi, but all the states were next to each other, not in a triangle. So I was a little boy, I walked up to that, and I was like, hey, I know this. And I started moving very slowly, like, how does this work? And all of a sudden, I figured out how to do it with the three things in a row instead of a triangle. And I started moving this thing, and apparently the student who was standing behind the table, he saw this little boy walking up, moving pieces very slowly, and then all of a sudden I could do it very fast because I practiced this every day, and his jaw dropped. I didn't know this. My dad told me this years later. The student must have thought that I was some kind of genius. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew the mechanics. And it is a little bit like this with functional programming. So I show a lot of functional programming to Objective-C people, and they have the same reaction sometimes. They think that this is some kind of magic, and that I must be very smart to know all this. But it's really like mechanics, and you do it a couple of times, and then everybody sees it's better. So that's the story. Yeah, that's this story, first story. So again, the rest of my presentation won't be very technical either. I'm sorry if I could disappoint you. I used to do my bachelor in Utrecht, and then I was almost done with my bachelor, and I wanted to move. I wanted to get out of the Netherlands, and I wanted to move to Berlin. But at the end of my bachelor, I did this course on Tomates from Leden by Bastiaan, and I was really intrigued by Haskell. And then I started looking like, so where could I do this Haskell thing? Where can I learn functional programming? And then it turned out that Utrecht was really good for that. So I went back to Utrecht, and which was amazing. I had a lot of fun. And then during my time in Utrecht, I started this company with Ilko. This was in 2009. Ilko and me were at the FP Dag in Eidhof, and we gave a talk on web programming with Haskell, and it was lots of fun. We used this for a client project, and we made money with Haskell, which was really awesome. We did the hackathon in Utrecht, and it was so much fun. But then at some point, we were freelancing a little bit. We wanted to make money. Also, we were doing all these projects, and then the iPhone came out. The first iPhone came out where an SDK was available, and we started programming with this, with iOS, and it was lots of fun. And we had so much fun building these apps. It was in Objective-C though. There was not so much fun. And it was basically, we'd seen the light, we knew everything about functional programming you could learn in a few years, and we were doing all this functional programming in our spare time and at school, and then to make money we were doing Objective-C. And in Objective-C you have to do memory management, you didn't have any higher order functions, almost no typing. So this was very frustrating. But building the apps was a lot of fun, so we stuck with that. So fast forward a few years later, and I moved to Berlin, and I was still doing iOS programming. And I had a sort of fun, but at some point it also became a little bit boring. I have some code here also. This is from the first project that I did with Oppo. I hope you cannot read it in the back. So this is like Objective-C. Objective-C is this, it's actually once you start working with it, it's a very nice language. It's very, very different from anything functional, but it's beautiful, it's very regular. So there's like all these square brackets, which are method calls, and you can do really beautiful stuff. It looks, or it feels a lot like Smalltalk. It's also very inspired by Smalltalk. And then they mix C into it. What you can see here, what's also very interesting is we create this data string, and then we create some JSON out of it, and then we release the data string. So you have to think about memory management. And you can imagine how frustrating this is if you've done Haskell. So that's like the kind of stuff we did. And here's some more code. This is also stuff that we had to do. This gets really complicated with other kinds of memory management, with CF release, with like C memory management. So that was not so cool. And I actually, after a few years, I started getting sort of a little bit better at this, and I started really liking it. And I always felt really guilty when I thought about the people here, and when I thought about my education and my beliefs. Like, I strongly believe that functional programming is better. And then I started doing all this object-oriented programming, and I was actually having a good time. I was reading books about object-oriented programming for fun in my spare time, like how to architect OO programs. And I was making nice apps, and I was proud of the apps that I made, and I was proud of the code that I wrote. And it was very conflicting. There's like an even longer story about this. Like, I actually was very sad, and at some point I wanted to stop programming altogether, and I don't know, become like a running coach or something else. Like, because I had this pain inside from wanting to do functional programming and seeing the light, and then doing OO. And there was no way of doing this functional stuff on iOS, other than writing my own language or something. So, that's a bit of a problem. This was one of my solutions. So, I tried this maybe 3 times, starting on this project. And then at some point I read the book, Code is at Work. I don't know who read it, if anybody read it. It's a very nice book. And there's also somebody who, every now and then, he came back to programming and he wanted to write his own language. And I learned very good advice from him. What he said is, whenever I get this feeling, I just lie down on the couch and wait until it goes away. So I didn't write my own language, because interfacing with Objective-C is hard. So I was sitting here a little bit frustrated, and then at some point I figured, well, I know a lot of interesting stuff, and I like writing, so let's start writing. When I did my master's thesis, I got a comment from Deutsche that I'm better at writing blog articles. I shouldn't write anything longer than that. So that's what we did. We started this blog, Objective-C.io, about Objective-C programming, like long, in-depth articles. And this was so much fun, and I was learning even more. And I figured out the learning part is what I really like. So we started this blog, and this sort of became big. And there's lots of people reading this, and we were writing all these articles about Objective-C programming. And sometimes I had the chance to sneak in some functional stuff, like telling people about immutable objects, which are very uncommon in the real world where people do OO. And it was cool. So, to continue the story, when was it, May this year or June? I was supposed to be at WWDC. That's like the Apple conference. It's like the ICFP for iOS programmers and Mac programmers. But this year everybody wants to go to WWDC. And unlike ICFP, they have a lottery for tickets because there are so many people that want to go that you have to apply to a lottery and only then you might buy a ticket if you get lucky. I did not get lucky. I really wanted to go, and when I heard the date, which is always announced very late, I called up my friend and said, listen, we had a holiday, and I said, listen, I have to cancel the holiday probably because I'm going to go to WWDC. I did not get a ticket to WWDC, I did not win the lottery, I did not have to cancel my holiday, so I went hiking with my friend in Poland. And we were hiking there, and then there was the day of the Apple keynote, where they announced all the new things. And we were sitting in this mountain hut overlooking at this lake and like these mountains. It was super nice. And it was very flaky Wi-Fi, and I was refreshing Twitter on this flaky Wi-Fi to see what Apple would announce. And it was all sort of boring, like iOS 8, and everybody, like there was the watch, and I was like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, they announced we're going to do a new programming language, Swift. I was like, whoa, what is this? Apple's going to do a new programming language? Super exciting. I mean, I like programming languages. So Apple announced programming language Swift, and all over the world, all the JavaScript developers were like, oh, I can write iOS apps now. I was looking at Swift, I was downloading the book, and I was like, yes, we can do functional programming. And finally, I could do both, like functional programming and iOS apps and Mac apps. And I was getting really, really excited. And I didn't sleep that night. I hardly slept. I was reading this book and I was thinking of all the possibilities. Like finally taking all these concepts and bringing them to my daily work. It doesn't happen that often that I get so excited about new technology. So I went back to Berlin after my trip, and my friend got really annoyed with me because I couldn't think about anything else anymore. I was not really responding in conversations anymore. I feel a little bit sorry for him. Yeah, this is the famous Apple line. This changes everything. Well, it did for me. And what I did is I started playing around a little bit with it, and then I realized, like, wait, there needs to be a book about functional programming in Swift. And I do all my projects together with my friend Florian, who doesn't know anything about functional programming. And we were like, yeah, we should write this book, but also I hadn't done any functional programming for a long time, and I'm not such a good writer, so we figured we have to bring even more people on board, and then we also asked Wouter, who is in the audience, and then we started writing a book about functional programming in Swift. People really liked this. Let's see, yeah, here's the book. So we started writing this book, and we took a few months to write it, and it was super interesting. People really like it. We get a lot of really good responses. For us, there's nothing that's super fancy functional in there. That's why this talk isn't so technical, because you probably know all of this already. But seeing this for people, it's mind-blowing. So it's really fun to be a part of that. And it was really fun to write in a few months. And people were also like, how did you write a book like that in a few months? But we already knew, of course, like all the functional stuff that we wanted to explain. For us, it was, I mean, it's still a lot of hard work, but it was fairly straightforward. So, that's the book. What's happening now is that by writing this book, people are starting to realize that this is possible. And a lot of people are now starting to look at Haskell. They're like, where do all these ideas come from? And of course, everybody tells me, yeah, you should look at languages like Haskell, and then you'll learn a lot more. So people are doing this. Like in the Apple community, now everybody realizes that they will need to learn Swift. The way Apple works is they try to push their technologies. They're not doing this yet, but they will be pushing way, way more for Swift. And then people will see that, for example, the things like optionals and generics, which are very normal for us. Optionals are maybe. The things that are very normal for us, they will see and try to understand it and look into functional programming and look into Haskell, and they will realize once Apple starts pushing this, that they will need to learn this stuff. So I think there will be some very interesting times coming for functional programming. And I think you will probably all notice this, like people will try to find other people who know about this. So I'm really excited to see what the turnout will be here next year. Maybe some small things about how we wrote the book. What was really interesting is, of course, doing Haskell, we knew about literate Haskell, and we wrote a very tiny tool called literate Swift to do this, and it turned out to be very useful. So the syntax of Swift changed a lot in the first half year. They basically had built this language internally, it was all secret, nobody knew about it, and they put it out and people started complaining. So everything changed in the first half year, and by writing the book in literate Swift, it was very interesting because we had a very rapid feedback cycle. We could just compile the book, and if it didn't compile, we had to change our code. And also the examples were executed automatically, and this also helped a lot in making sure that everything was right. And another really cool thing is for every chapter